The 2026 FIFA World Cup will feature 48 nations playing in 16 cities across 3 countries beginning June 11th. Michael, you know this already. An estimated 5 million fans are going to attend the tournament's 104 matches, resulting in 80.1 billion in gross output and $11 billion in revenue for FIFA and 9 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. That is a huge number.
With FIFA pledging to achieve 50% reduction in carbon emissions by 2030 and reaching zero by 2040, can the game's global governing body continue its unprecedented financial aspirations while also preserving the environment? We dive into the environmental impact of the 2026 FIFA World Cup and more in this episode of Finance of Football. I'm veteran sports journalist Michael Array.
And I'm Asli Pellet, and I cover business or women's soccer for The Athletic. Much has been made about the financial impact of the 2026 World Cup. We've been talking about it for months now. Like, if I hear it one more time, I think I'm going to stop listening to our show. But from jaw-dropping ticket prices to inflated public transportation fees, which, oh my God, by the way, that is still a growing issue. We'll go back to it after we finish our episode for the World Cup date section. But the tournament's total impact goes beyond the bank. You know that, Michael, and I love that you researched this because I cannot imagine when FIFA is growing this tournament from 32 teams to 48 teams, from 1 country hosting to 2 country or 3 country hosting to 6 country hosting. How are they really going to curb their carbon print? How are they planning on stopping this wasteful way of hosting a big sporting event?
Yeah, I think that's the balance that FIFA needs to find here, right? Is obviously you're growing it. There's more teams, more matches than ever before. We're having 3 host countries. You know, they started this jointly hosting tournaments in 2002 with South Korea and Japan being the first to co-host a World Cup. And now it's kind of the precedent. And, you know, we'll see that obviously this summer. We'll see it in 4 years' time with Spain, Morocco, Portugal, and then 3 other nations hosting ceremonial matches for the 100th anniversary of the tournament. But there is a balance, right? Like, you can only make so much. Well, you can't only make so much revenue. You can make as much revenue as possible. But what is that impact going to have on the earth, on the host countries and the cities and all of that? And, you know, at what point does FIFA sit there and say, okay, great, we're bringing in $11 billion this summer from this tournament. How much of that goes towards those sustainability goals that they laid out, you know, almost a decade ago, and that they're doubled down on recently, saying, hey, we want to have 50%, you know, reduction by 2030 and then be net zero by 2040. So those are very big aspirational goals. They have the resources, they'll have the money, especially after this summer, to do that. But how much of a priority is it going to be moving forward? I think there's concerns over a dangerous precedent being set here this summer.
Definitely. And scientists have conservatively projected that this tournament will generate around 9 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Air travel comprises approximately 7.7 million tons of carbon budget, and then more than 4 times that of the average for tournaments held between 2010 and 2022. Considering Qatar was such a small country and venue, of course, this is a big shift from what happened just a cycle before this one, but also even 2002 in Japan and Korea, the distances that people had to travel were much smaller than what they're going to do for this World Cup. I mean, just think about it. From here to going to Washington, D.C. is a 4 or 5 hour car ride. You know, this is a huge country to begin with. And from a logistical perspective, for a fan that wants to follow their team, and if that team is going to make it out of the group stages to the round of 32, 16, quarterfinal, semifinal, people are going to travel a lot with their team. And it's going to be not just flying over from their country to visit United States and one hub here. They're going to have to go multiple cities. Just think about Argentina. my, team for this, they're going to have to come to United States from Argentina, which is a 12-hour flight to Miami, or 11 if the wind is blowing the right way. And then you, and then you have to travel to Texas, right, for the Dallas game. And then you have to go to Kansas, which is another 8-hour drive or a few hours of flight. Then you're going to come back again. And then, of course, Argentina is, or not, of course, I don't want to jinx any team, but let's say they get out of the group, and they might come all the way to East Coast this time to play some of their post-group stage games. I mean, it's mind-blowing to me that anyone will actually accept to come and follow their dream of like seeing their team win in this World Cup instead of watching it in the comfort of their home. If they want to be more responsible about environmental impact of being a fan, to be honest.
Yeah, again, I get it. It's tough, and I can't imagine Messi and the Argentinian team sitting on an 8-hour bus ride. I don't care how nice that bus is, going from Texas to Kansas City for that match. But so that means it's a flight, right? And everyone is critical over, oh, Jeff Bezos hops on his personal jet, and Taylor Swift did this, and all of that kind of stuff like that, so they can avoid LA traffic and those kinds of things. But the flights are necessary for this tournament, right? You have 48 teams. That's players, that's staff, that's trainers, that's, chefs, that's you name it. Just all of that are flying from their respective countries. Like you said, they're going to one city or multiple cities. And then you have all the fans who are coming in. And there's going to be, we talked about it. FIFA's estimating 5 million attendees for this tournament. It's going to break all of the records, all the prior tournament attendance records. But that's not including the people who are just coming here just to be part of the vibe, right? Like there's people who are still coming here for vacation. What better place to be on vacation than North America this summer? Because you're also going to get kind of that byproduct of the excitement of the World Cup. So even if you don't have tickets to the actual tournament, I'm not saying people are going to spend thousands of dollars to come over here just to sit in a bar, but there are going to be other people who are coming over here to the US, especially for this tournament for this summer. And that's, again, it's flying. And, aviation accounts for nearly 3.5% of all human caused climate change, while the direct carbon dioxide emissions from the jet exhaust makes up about 2.4 of those global totals. So again, it's a significant amount. And for a tournament of this magnitude, it's only going to grow. What does it say moving forward? There's talks of FIFA saying, you know what? 32 teams was great. 48 is even better. What about 64? So now you're bringing even more teams, even more staff, even more infrastructure, even more fans to some of these countries, which now, again, we talk about that precedent, is setting that precedent. So some of the research, from a report from the New Weather Institute, who are the ones that really brought this up, they're estimating that air transport emissions will rise between 160 and 325% for each of the next 3 World Cup tournaments played in 2026 this summer, 2030, and 2034. That's compared to average levels for recent finals. So, those aren't small numbers. It's not increased by 16%. It's 160 minimum, and up to potentially 325% more than the average over those last 4 tournament cycles we talked about earlier. More on the environmental and potential financial impacts of the 2026 FIFA World Cup this summer, right after the break.
Well, Michael, this World Cup 2026 is set to bring $11 billion in revenue. That's a number that we've been talking about it throughout our, many episodes, along with 9 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, nearly more than double the average of the last 4 World Cup tournaments. While the planet's certainly not benefiting from this surge in CO2 emissions, there are some who will, and guess who they are?
If I had to guess.
Our dear friends in the Middle East, Aramco, the national oil company of Saudi Arabia, hosts of the 2034 FIFA World Cup, are going to probably set better goals for their projections for revenue and benefit for those cycles. Airlines are going to be the other group that is going to benefit from this World Cup for sure. In 2030, between Portugal and Spain, I bet people can drive, take the train, take public transportation, but airline companies are already making so much money from this World Cup. Domestic round trip flights are up roughly 19% year over year, averaging around $489, while the cheapest rock bottom tickets are up nearly 23%. International economy flights also climbed by an average $115 to reach $1,064, $1,100, put it this way. I heard from multiple friends and my mom who's trying to come here anytime between June 1st till July 1st. Economy tickets coming from Europe to United States, $2,500, $2,000, $3,000. We're not talking about economy plus. We're not talking about business class. We're talking about that seat that you don't want to sit down, squish between two people in the
All the
economy.
way back by the bathroom, right? All the people
Exactly.
standing in line the entire flight. Miserable. You couldn't pay me $1,100 to sit in that seat.
But it is, it is what it is. This is what's going to happen. Whether or not airlines will be filling those seats for the price points that we just mentioned, we'll see that after this World Cup when we're, looking into the aftermath. But there's something to be said about these industries that are benefiting. They're one of FIFA's biggest partners, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly right. American Airlines is the official, airline of the 2026 World Cup. And you mentioned on the Saudi Arabian oil company that, again, Gianni Infantino, he loves Trump and he loves the Saudis. And it's no surprise that two of the next three World Cups are going to be played in those respective countries, right? So what better way to make new friends in the Middle East than, benefit from this large tournament where they're going to be counting the cash, and they'll be counting the cash again in 2034, knowing that all of those flights are now going to be directed towards their country. So again, it's the nature of the beast we're all dealing with here. And I think it's one of those things too, where again, if you're FIFA, your event organizers, is this on your radar? You can sit here and you can go to all these conferences and go to the UN and say, oh, we want to be, cut our carbon waste by 50%, and we want to be, carbon neutral in the next 40 years or whatever it is. But are you sitting here less than a month ahead of this tournament wondering about this? I can't imagine. We've seen stories in the LA Times and the Guardian and BBC and all of that really highlighting this and how it is going to leave, a mark on this tournament, as potentially a lot of other things are going to, especially that we've seen in the build up to this tournament, just with the ticket prices. Again, I hate to bring it up. I know it's such a sore subject as you and I are both sitting here, scrounging up pennies to try to afford these match tickets. But, I hate to say it, but it's really going to come down to the host cities, the host committees, and just these facilities that are already built. A lot of these are NFL stadiums, and they do have a lot of green initiatives, which I think are super great, and I want to highlight out, Lincoln Financial Field, which will be known as Philadelphia Stadium or Philadelphia Field, whatever it is for this summer. They are LEED platinum certified, 100% clean energy. They have 11,000 solar panels. Mercedes-Benz down in Atlanta, right? They're LEED platinum, the first professional sports stadium internationally to achieve that mark, right? So they're diverting 90% of waste from landfill. Levi's Stadium in San Francisco as well too. They're LEED gold certified. They have green roof, solar bridges. Like these facilities are doing that, but that's not going to offset all of the flights. That's not going to offset all of the jet fuel just in the atmosphere. So they're doing a little part, which, and I'm not trying to downplay it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a little part where you're going to have still 9 million tons of this carbon waste as a result of this tournament, with the majority of it coming from flights. But, kudos to a lot of these, facilities and the people who have the foresight. Hey, not only are we doing it on Sundays for NFL games, we're doing it this summer for the World Cup.
And also, let's not forget the individual efforts like you and I and everyone else who's using paper straws to save the planet. While on the other hand, I feel like we're burning forests and
I don't
we're
even have a
really,
straw.
I know. Look at you. You're saving the world one more time by avoiding using any straws. But jokes aside, we'll be back with our weekly World Cup date right after this. Michael, what do we have on our plate? Let me start with one of my favorite parts right before a World Cup. What would make it so, almost nostalgic for me? A teachers' strike in Mexico. It feels like it's 2014 Brazil again. Teachers in Mexico are planning to strike during the 2026 World Cup as they call for reforms to wages, pensions in the country's education system. Thousands of teachers marched in Mexico City in protest, rejecting the 9% salary increase announced by the government of Claudia Sheinbaum. The National Coordinator of Education Workers said in a statement it will call for a national strike within the framework of the World Cup if its non-negotiable demands are not met. The union said it's demanding dignified pensions, fair wages, job security, and an education that serves the people, not corporate interests. I do understand that, of course, this is a great moment to use this global stage to bring your fight. Union is demanding the repeal of the 2007 ISSST law, arguing that the reform harmed the teachers' union and retirement system by replacing lifetime pensions with individual accounts managed by private funds. The union is also demanding higher salary increases and better working conditions. They're not asking for something you and I wouldn't ask if it were working for a big unionized education system. Let's hope it's not transit workers coming right after this, or, waste management also taking a strike. I feel like this happens in every World Cup cycle. I don't think we'll get to see it in the United States, but I'm sure in Mexico we might see more protests.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point earlier, right? Like, what better platform to add fuel to your message than the World Cup, right? This is going to be the biggest sporting event ever. So why not sit here and try to ride those coattails and say, oh, by the way, you think 9% was good? It's not good enough for us. We need 15%. I don't know how much the teachers make. I don't know how much of a 9%, increase is beneficial or not. But I'll tell you this, teachers, at least in the United States, are underappreciated and underpaid, and they deserve all of the money, benefits, and resources they can get, right? Because you have good teachers, then you have good kids, and then then they're good workers, they're good CEOs, all that kind of stuff like that. So I don't think they could be paid enough. So I stand behind the Mexican teachers, give them more money. Hopefully it just kind of gets resolved and they can all enjoy the tournament.
Let's see. Another World Cup date comes from our adjacent state, Pennsylvania. And I think New Jersey Transit, your home state, should take some notes.
You know what? They should. I have a few things to say to NJ Transit, but the number one thing that I'm going to say to them is look at what they're doing in southeastern Pennsylvania. Southeastern Pennsylvania Transit Authority, also known as SEPTA, announced on May 18th it will extend service to accommodate increased demand for the 6 World Cup matches being played in Philadelphia this summer. So they're offering extra trips along the Broad Street line, to and from NRG Station. So, they're expecting each match is about 31,000 folks going to be riding SEPTA. They can move about 15,000 people per hour on the Broad Street line, also known as the B. That's going to help with the extra service and the capacity. Officials said on match days, the Broad Street line and the Market Frankford line, also known as the L, will operate overnight with trains running every 30 minutes to select stations. So not only is SEPTA increasing the train offering for the World Cup, they're going to do additional buses along routes 32 and 48, which serve Lemon Hill area for the Free FIFA Fan Festival. Say that 10 times fast. Weekday bus service will run every 15 minutes or less from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So not only are they increasing the access and the amount and the frequency of these public services, the cost is not going up. $2.90 to ride the B. Now, how much is it? How much is it for NJ Transit to get from New York to New York, New Jersey Stadium?
I think the lightest number is $85.
Yeah, you can take a school bus for $50 or whatever it is too. So a nice lavish school bus to get to the match. So, SEPTA, Philly, they're doing it right. I'm a central New Jersey guy, like you said. I'm a New York sports guy. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about the city of Philadelphia. My heart just grew a little bit bigger because of what SEPTA is doing here this summer. And I think other cities need to take note.
And this is what the most beautiful part of the messaging. Just like you, they are going to make thousands of fans like them and visit their city and enjoy their experience while they're in Philadelphia. And that's what every city should be doing and thinking about. Like, how can they make a difference for the visitors so that the visitor has a pleasant experience, that they don't remember their World Cup experience by saying, oh my God, I wasted so much money on a shitty train, and say, oh my God, this was great. I could go back home in 15, 20 minutes after my game was over. Because maybe that last game, you lose, you're already feeling horrible. You want to get home so fast and go to bed and cry under your sheets. You don't want to think about the $85 you just spent on, plus the hundreds and thousands of dollars you spent on a FIFA match ticket. So thank you, Philadelphia. Thank you, SEPTA, for at least making your part, by creating an atmosphere that is fan-friendly.
Finance of Football comes to you from the Frequency Machine Podcast Network. Hit us up on Instagram and YouTube at Finance of Football Pod for more football business and our enlightened opinions. Or search Finance of Football on LinkedIn and Facebook. This episode was produced by co-hosts Michael Array and Asa Pellet. It was edited by Ryan Hammond. Mixing and mastering by Julian Kwasniewski. Our theme music is by Hatamitsunami. Our show is executive produced by Ryan, alongside Stacy Book and Avi Glajansky for Frequency Machine. Find more about Finance of Football at frequencymachine.com. Follow us on YouTube at Finance of Football and listen anywhere you get podcasts. Please like and subscribe. Help us reach more people. We love you for it.